for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot on my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no L's, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and today our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Indiana Pacers. And man, oh man, how the tables have turned for these Indiana Pacers. After coming just one game away from winning the NBA Finals last season, going through the likes of the Milwaukee Bucks, the Cavaliers, and New York Knicks in the process to represent the Eastern Conference, India has fallen to the back of the line entering tonight, losers of their last 12 games and just 6-30 on this season, which is dead last in the Eastern Conference. Of course, that does ignore a lot of obvious and important context. And in the case you've been away for a while or you've been living under a rock or something like that, you're probably already aware of who has been missing for this Indiana Pacers team. Tyrese Halliburton's out for the season after suffering a torn Achilles in Game 7. He honestly was the head of the proverbial snake for this team, right? Leading the Pacers to a 50-32 record last season and finishing as part of the All-NBA third team. Miles Turner, another big piece. After years of dealing with endless trade rumors, he finally elected to leave and depart for what he thought might be greener pastures over in Milwaukee. They also lost veteran big man Thomas Bryant to some team in Cleveland. I don't know. He was big for them at times during the playoffs. He led them in corner three-point percentage at 63.7% in the playoffs, drilling 7 of 11 shots from the corners. Those are all pretty substantial losses if you really think about it. This has resulted in them having the NBA's second worst ranked offense, fielding an offensive rating of 108.3, which you couldn't fucking tell tonight, and a bottom 10 defensive rating of 117.2. That, my friends, has resulted in a net rating of minus 8.8, which is the third worst in basketball. Now, of course, it hasn't all been bad. One really nice bright spot for them lately has been center Jay Huff, who was acquired from Memphis in this offseason. He has all of a sudden become one of the league's best shot blockers. It's quite literally leading the league in blocks right now with 79 total rejections on the season entering tonight. And that number is going to go up after today as this dude just flat out balled out. We already know Pascal Siakam has resumed his all-star level of play. Came into today averaging 23.8 points per game, 6.7 boards, and 3.8 assists. But the reality here is that the Pacers have been very injury-stricken this year. And as of recording this, they lead the league in games missed due to injury this season with a staggering 207, right? Much of that has been tied up in Obi Toppin, who is out for probably for a good long while. Tyrese Halliburton, who I already mentioned, is out for the season. Ben Mathurin and Aaron Nesmith, who did play tonight, but has missed a good portion of the season already. But of course, as we already know, the Cleveland Cavaliers are dealing with their own injury issues. They have the league's 7th most games missed to injury. Max Strus, who has been out all season, is expected to be sidelined for at least another 4 weeks as of today's status update. Larry Nance Jr. remains out with the calf strain, and they've just had guys in and out of the lineup all season for various reasons. And to make matters worse, the goddamn flu, the super flu, has been running rampant, and Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, although he played today, and Jarrett Allen are all dealing with symptoms of being sick out there. All of that said, the Cavaliers had a prime opportunity to feast on an Eastern Conference cellar dweller, and damn it, they just had to take advantage of that. And to be honest with you, I liked what I saw in the early going of this game for the most part, though it turned into a battle. a battle that I did not anticipate it being. But with these Indiana Pacers, you have to always expect some sort of battle because these motherfuckers just continuously battle back. And man, that's exactly what happened. But they flipped the tables on Cleveland. Cleveland was the one fighting back in today's performance. But again, I did like what I saw, at least in the early going, in the early stages of the first quarter, as the Cavaliers worked the ball inside, as Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen accounted for 5 of the Cavs' first 10 shot attempts. And one would think that they would continue to do that and try and brutalize Indy. But J Huff ain't no bitch out there. I mean, seriously, he is going to make life difficult for your bigs. He leads the league in blocks for a reason, and that is because he is unafraid of going out there and contesting shots. He's honestly been a big bright spot for them after coming over from Memphis. We saw big-to-big passing early. We saw Mobley and Allen back there backing opponents down and sealing them off in the post. We saw a good effort on the glass between the two of those early on. But then the first shift of reserves, including that of Jalen Tyson, who didn't have the best game today, DeAndre Hunter, and I believe it was Craig Porter Jr. Out there in that first shift. That resulted immediately, as soon as that lineup came in a turnover, as DeAndre Hunter gave the ball away by looking for Jarrett Allen, trying to hit him down in the post. And then Johnny Furphy, right after that, capped off a pretty big Pacers run with a right corner triple, resulting in an 8-0 Indy run. He was really active on the glass and defensively throughout this game, especially in that first quarter. And one of the highlights, if I'm being objective, of that first frame was a forced turnover that turned into a jam on the opposite end. Man, this dude, he clearly has hops. I mean, we've seen him put out some highlight reel jams over these last 2 seasons or so. And he has been another small bright spot for them due to his ability on the defensive end. And he's a young dude, right? I think he'll continue to improve. He's definitely impacting the game on the glass. And though they haven't won a lot of games, I think you just got to credit them for trying, right? They always consistently battle, and Furphy is a big reason for that, at least this year. That said, I mean, that first shift, it felt like it was going to go bad, as there were multiple turnovers, fouls, and missed shots. And that Pacers lead quickly went from 2 to 8. All in all, they ended up pulling together a 15-4 run as soon as that first shift of reserves for Cleveland came in. But thankfully, the Cavs were able to get things rolling again after Mobley and Merrill. They just made shit happen, right? Credit to Hunter after turning the ball over a few times. For helping to facilitate some ball movement out there in the final moments of the first, as it led to a Sam Merrill triple, which led to the Cavaliers ending the first down 22-28. Now, what I will say is that Evan Mobley, much like the Cavaliers tried to in that first quarter, in the second quarter, they kind of got things kicked off by getting Mobley the ball again, right? And all he did was he draws an and one for the Cavaliers' first 3 points of that second frame on Micah Potter. You all know who he is, but Indy was making some very tough shots out there, combined with some very sloppy ball movement early on by the Cavaliers, which really kept them from getting back into it, right? This led to Cleveland consistently fighting that uphill battle, expending a tremendous amount of energy and just trying to tie the game up. Also, way too many open threes out on the perimeter for Indy. And here's the thing, right? Before I move any more forward in this stream, I do have to acknowledge this. First of all, the Indiana Pacers are not some great shooting team. They entered today as one of, if I'm not mistaken, one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA. The second to last at 29th overall. They're shooting just 33.5% from distance. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. Is it a calculated gamble, right? Is a calculated risk to say that Cleveland allowed them to take some of these shots? I don't know. Maybe that's giving them too much credit. Maybe it was simply just slow rotations and some defensive miscommunications. But I think that knowing that the Pacers entered today as the second worst shooting team in the league probably gave them a little bit of mental they probably put a mental note in their minds, knowing that they would probably afford them those shots more often than not, because they entered today not necessarily shooting the ball all that well. That said, I mean, you look at some of the triples that they were able to make. I mean, Jay Huff was cashing them home. Johnny Furphy hit some, right? There's, I think a multitude of other players contributed here as Indy would end up shooting pretty damn well in this one. 45.7% on the night, 16 triples they hit, and they only took 35 attempts. I mean, it just felt like they were raining threes at one point, and the bulk of that felt as if it came in the second half, not necessarily the first. But before I go any further, just want to give a shout out to Lena QT, who just became a member over on YouTube. Remember, guys, you can do that for as little as $1 a month. I think the wine is $1. I think the gold is $3, something like that. It's been a minute since I took a look at the tiers there, but every little bit helps. So I appreciate you, Lena. Try and get you included a little bit more on the streams and in regard to some of the perks that come with those. Definitely appreciated though. But as I was saying, I think that you look at what they were able to do in the game in regards to knocking down some of these shots, and you can't help but wonder if Cleveland was gambling a little bit by giving that to them, because it felt like every other triple they took was an open one, and a lot of those came out on the corners, right? It just felt as if they were seeding those to Indy at times. All of that being said, DeAndre Hunter and Craig Porter Jr., who I'm going to highlight here in just a second, weren't about to sit here and let Indy run away with this one, at least in the first half. And they were key in helping Cleveland cut the lead at that point to 3. And then Sam Merrill kind of took care of the rest at that point, swishing home a transition triple to put the Cavaliers up 45-43 and helping them take their first lead, since it was 10-9 around the 8-minute mark in the first quarter. But Indy, much like we know they're capable of, they punch back, retaking that lead after making some contested middies. And to that point, right, I don't know how many occasions tonight I saw the likes of Andrew Nembhard and Pascal Siakam just making some really, really tough contested mid-range shots. So credit and kudos to those two, because that was really objectively cool to see. You don't really see it too much mid-range in today's NBA outside of a select few players. But the real star of that first half, again, if I'm being objective, for Indy was Jay Huff, who scored Indy's last 7 points of the first half, putting the Pacers up 63-50, if I'm not mistaken. I just, at a point, it felt as if Cleveland was trending in the wrong direction against an opponent they had absolutely no business doing so against. It was ridiculous. Actually, I think that score, I think I have that incorrectly. I think it was 60, if I'm reading this correctly, 62-54, right? Got a 60-54. That's what the lead was entering the second half. I look at this and I see, if you're just watching the film in this game, right, Jay Huff on those final couple possessions, he was very, very irritating. And some of that was he was helped out a little bit by Johnny Furphy. We do have to call a spade a spade. I think that you look at what he's been able to do this year in an expanded role in Indy and knocking down those 3-point shots and blocking, leading the league in that category. And you can't help but feel happy for a player like that when that actually happens, right? Now, on the season, it's not like Huff is shooting the lights out. He entered today shooting 29.3% from distance. But today, it felt as if Huff could do no wrong on both ends of the floor. He knocked down 4 of his 7 attempts. That's 57.1%. He was 7 of 10 overall on the field, and he contributed 20 total points. He rejected a shot. He pulled down 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and he was still a minus 14 somehow. Either way, it felt as if Jay Huff had a huge impact, and he certainly did in that first half of this game as he scored their last 7 points to close it. But as I mentioned, it wasn't just him. Johnny Furphy, up to that point at least, was extremely impactful, as at that point, he had 8 total rebounds. He would finish the game with 11 total. So he was working the glass, really, really was irritating out there. Another killer in this regard, turnovers. The Indiana Pacers feasted off of the Cavaliers' turnovers in the first half. They turned 8 first half Cleveland turnovers into 11 points. Now, I have to be honest. This, as much as I hate to say it, has been a recurring theme as of late in the first half of games, as over their last 5 outings, Cleveland is turning the ball over 8.4 times per game. That is the 4th most turnovers in basketball during that stretch in the first halves of games. You don't want to see that continuously happening. I'm not sure why it's been a common occurrence, and I'm on the film. It suggests some lazy ball movement, some careless turnovers have been committed as well. You hate to see that happen, but I don't want to see it continue to be an issue for them moving forward, because you might be able to get away from it, get away with it against a team that is injury riddled, right? That does not have the requisite talent out there most nights to make you pay for it. Although they did that tonight. Got to give them credit where it's due, right? They put up 116 total points, and this is being the 2nd worst offense in basketball, so give them credit. But I say all that to say they're turning the ball over a lot, and they need to cut that shit out. And a lot of that has been in the first half. And when they do that, they put themselves into these holes, or they give themselves these challenges to try and overcome. And sometimes they do, but most of the time they haven't been able to do that. And it's a real issue for this team. And everybody has been a culprit. Now, I know the one player in that regard that's going to draw a lot of criticism tonight, it's Craig Porter Jr. Now, I'll say this, right? DeAndre Hunter was essentially, and he had some big play in the second half of this game as he knocked down some shots that really got Cleveland going. But DeAndre Hunter turned the ball over 5 times today. I'm not going to absolve him at all for his part in this, but although his were frustrating, there were some committed by Craig Porter Jr. that were absolutely irritating. I just hated to see it. And with that being the case, though, I legitimately felt that this is one of Craig Porter Jr.'s most impactful games of the season. He would have finished the game with a near triple-double out there. 8 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. So all he's doing out there is filling up the damn stat sheet, and he's 3 of 6 from the field, including 1 of 2 from three-point distance in 28 minutes of action off the Cleveland Cavalier bench. Lonzo Ball did not play tonight, so to the Lonzo Ball detractors, this is probably a feather in your cap, as Craig Porter Jr. was out there making plays. Now, again, he turned the ball over 4 times today, too. He had some very, very frustrating turnovers. There was a couple where he was trying to advance the ball, getting it into the half court, but he was either missing his target. I think there was a couple out there that he tried to hit to Naquan Tomlin, right, in transition after a turnover on the Pacers' part, and he was just unable to do so. The feel was just not there at times. But considering the fact that this motherfucker finished with 9 assists, I'm not too mad. So you can be pissed at CPJ all you want for the turnovers, but there was a reason he was a +7 out there, and he almost finished with a triple-double despite having so many frustrating turnovers. So, again, all credit where credit is due. Craig Porter Jr. stepped up in a big way with Donovan Mitchell being out, with Lonzo not playing. And, again, to the people out there that believe Lonzo should be shipped out or he should be permanently benched, this is probably going to lead further ammunition to that. Although, I will say, I think there were points tonight in which I would have liked to see Lonzo, and the Cavaliers were trying to kind of falling by the wayside. But hard to argue. CPJ was doing his thing tonight. When he wasn't turning the ball over, that is. He was out there really, really putting the Cavaliers in good positions from an offensive perspective. He was attacking downhill, which has been a constant source of irritation for me between him and Lonzo, right? We already know the deal, right? If you're not going to shoot the ball efficiently, you have to be able to put pressure on the defense and attack inside. At the very least, what that does is, right, it opens up cutting lanes. It allows you to get more involvement from your bigs, whether that be in the pick and roll game or off of DHO actions and sets. You can get you can get dump offs, you can get cuts out of the dunker spot from the likes of Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. There's just a lot more that opens up when you're actually putting pressure on the interior with your dribble penetration. And that is the one key difference right now, at least from an offensive perspective, between Craig Porter Jr. and Lonzo Ball. There are others, but this is the biggest one. And this is why Lonzo, this is why people get so frustrated with him because one, he's not shooting the ball well, and two, he's not dribble penetrating. Right? When you're not doing that, yeah, you're probably going to lose those minutes, and that's exactly what's happening with Craig Porter Jr. But even though it sucks to see that from a perspective of wanting Lonzo to succeed, it's hard to be mad because CPJ is tearing it up in his opportunities, and I loved it. Not necessarily the best performance in terms of securing the rock, but it's hard to be too mad when he's impacting the game in so many other areas, including on the defensive end, where he's out there rejecting shots. I mean, seriously, 3 more blocks today for Craig Porter Jr. I think he entered the game with 18 blocks in 31 appearances prior to today's game, and now he'll have he entered with 19. He now has 22 blocks in 32 appearances. Or in 33 appearances, rather. That's fucking crazy for a point guard at 6'2" or so. And I already mentioned how the advanced analytics tend to the portrait that they tend to paint for him. CPJ is flat out rejecting shots at an alarming rate, in a good way, right? He entered today in the 98th percentile in block percentage among point guards at 1.9%. And that will probably go up after 3 more blocks today. He entered today in the 100th percentile in offensive rebounds at 8.8% in that category among point guards. And he hasn't been too shabby in regards to pulling rebounds down on the defensive side either. He entered today in the 67th percentile at 11.1%. He's just doing it all on that in that specific category. He's one of the better rebounders at his size and at his position, and couldn't be happier for him. I mean, honestly, this is a massive Craig Porter Jr. game despite some of the errors that he made, but I got to give him credit. All of that said, entering the second half of this game, I was getting really scared, guys. I don't like admitting that, especially against an Indiana Pacers team that has absolutely no business taking it to the Cavaliers the way they did without the likes of Tyrese Halliburton, with Miles Turner no longer on the roster, with no Ben Mathurin, no Obi Toppin. They had no fucking business being in this one, but they were. So give them the respect that they deserve. You have to love the fight that they give, even if they get on my nerves. They're a very, very pesky opponent, and their win-loss record is not always indicative of that. Although they have now lost 13 straight games, they're going to be in a much better position next year for this because of potential draft compensation. But we'll have to see. But the second half, right? Jay Huff, he was on some more bullshit. Micah Potter was putting the Cavaliers guards in poor and just compromising positions because he was able to seal them off and get to the line. And they shot the lights out from 3-point distance in that third quarter as they hit 5 of 8 from deep in the third. They were just really destroying the Cavaliers from 3-point distance. Really. I mean, 16 total triples on the night, 5 of those alone in the third quarter. So that was a big momentum shifter. And for every run that the Cavaliers are trying to go on, it just felt like the triples were dropping for Indiana, and you hated to see that continue. But that being said, the Cavaliers, they went on a couple of runs themselves. They executed a great run to complete they executed a 10-0 run, I believe, that was capped off by a Jarrett Allen steal and score on the other end. But at that point, it was truly a back and forth affair. One of the biggest sequences of the game, at least my favorite, right, was DG pulling up after the Cavaliers fought for a defensive rebound. And that ended up putting the Cavaliers up 103-102. And then DG's feet to Allen in the post after going around that Allen screen, right? I love that, right? He got the best of Jay Huff on that one. And then honestly, overall, in the fourth quarter of this game, the Cavaliers' clamps were on full display as they were just limiting them. They did not get a lot of good looks off. They were missing shots. They were getting rejected. Cavaliers were pulling down a good number of rebounds. In the fourth quarter, it just was not to be for the Indiana Pacers, although they made this one a game down to the final moments because of some timely defensive sequences and shot making on their end. And you got to credit guys like Andrew Nembhard and Pascal Siakam for doing what they did out there. And that's really all it was. And then Darius motherfucking Garland, right? Darius has taken a lot of shit this year, some of it justified, some of it unjustified, and I'll continue to try and be on the right side of this thing. At least that's what I believe. Darius Garland is a very, very skilled offensive talent. We already know the defensive deficiencies. We already know that he has size limitations that will forever follow him. But when Darius Garland is on and locked in and has the ball in his hands and he's orchestrating the offense, there are few that are more aesthetically pleasing to watch than one Darius Kennard Garland. DG would finish the game with 29 total points. He would finish with 2 rebounds, 6 assists out there, just setting his guys up, especially Jarrett Allen. He was 14 of 23 from the field. That is 60.8 or 9%, if I'm not mistaken. He was just 1 of 4 from 3-point range, but he was consistently impacting the offensive flow of this game for the Cavaliers in a little under 33 minutes of action. 32 minutes and 58 seconds to be exact. This was a brilliant performance from Darius Garland, who just basically made plays when he needed to for the Cavaliers down the stretch. Now, if you're looking for fourth quarter stats for Darius Garland alone, this man was just absolutely phenomenal in the fourth quarter of this game, as he was 7. Yes, listen to this. Darius Garland, the Gary, Indiana native, playing in Indianapolis today, 7 of 7 from the field in the fourth quarter. 100% of his shots were made. Obviously, he got to the free throw line as well, but the bulk of his points came in that fourth quarter. And honestly, just being honest with you, I did not expect that. And this is the Darius Garland that we were so accustomed to seeing last year with that clutch gene, just closing things out and orchestrating and leading. And we know this guy's very capable, as we saw him do it during the stretch, during the real big season that he had, the breakout season in 2021-22, before Donovan Mitchell arrived, and he was constantly leading the Cavaliers to victory. We saw bits and pieces of it in the 2 seasons that led up to that, although he has dealt with injuries time and time again. And then last year was arguably his best season to date, as he was one of the clutchest motherfuckers in basketball. And this toe injury just destroyed all of that. And I'm not going to sit up here and make this too long-winded, just because it is the Indiana Pacers. It is the Indiana Pacers. And you don't want to, and I'm trying not to be disrespectful here, especially if there are Pacers people in the chat or watching this live stream. But what I will say is clearly, the level of competition, although the score won't show it, it's not exactly like he was playing the Oklahoma City Thunder or the New York Knicks, a big team, right? He was playing an opponent that was seen as beneath the Cavaliers entering this game. But all you can do is play the opponent in front of you. And Darius, with the Cavaliers needing a big performance from him, without Donovan Mitchell playing, without a couple of other Cavaliers out there, and he stepped up. And that's all you could ask for at points. And today was a really, really good performance for the likes of Darius Garland. Also, quick note, Dean Wade ruled out of the second half of this game. I think that had a larger impact than I would have liked to admit. But I think you felt it out there, especially on the defensive end. He was ruled out for the entire second half due to the contusion that he has been dealing with. And he was probable. The injury report had him listed at probable entering today, which, usually is a good indicator as for a guy to play. But clearly it was bothering him, and he was unable to play the second half of this game. Hated to see that. Hope it doesn't linger into the Cavaliers' next game, but it deserved a mention. It deserved a mention. Overall, though, solid Cavaliers victory, and it wasn't a blowout by any means, and you would have liked to have seen that considering the opponent. But a win is a win, even if they're ugly, and I stand by that. Loved to see it. Evan Mobley, not the most dominant performance, but I did genuinely believe that this was a very solid performance overall from Evan Mobley, who did a lot of things out there on that court tonight on his way to 20 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. So he filled it up in terms of the stat sheet. He challenged Jay Huff and others around the rim. He put the ball on the floor and antagonized them out there. He was unafraid, although he did not make a single triple tonight. He was unafraid to let that thing fly, and he was pulling down timely rebounds. He may not have had a lot. He only had 6 as a big, but with Jarrett Allen out there also patrolling the boards with high-level performances from the likes of Craig Porter Jr. on that glass out there, with DeAndre Hunter also pulling down rebounds. Shouts out to him for that. Now, not always his best category, but with all of them pulling down rebounds, I mean, you didn't really need Mobley to fill it up there. He pulled down some timely ones, though, especially one putback he had that it resulted in a Mobley jam off of a Jalen Tyson miss. You love seeing that. And then obviously the ball movement out there, the ability to impact the game defensively. These are all things that we know Mobley is capable of. So maybe not the best Mobley performance, but a very solid, very versatile one at that. Jarrett Allen wasn't the best first half for him, but I legitimately felt that he stepped up in a big way in that second half. He would finish with 19 points, 12 rebounds, so another double-double for him. He was moving the ball out there, 4 assists, 2 steals for him, an efficient 8 of 13. And he had some man's rebounds, right? People call him soft. We know Jay Huff is not the easiest person to compete against from a physicality standpoint. Is again, he's leading the league in blocks. He will challenge you at the rim. And for what it's worth, Jarrett Allen stood tall, and you got to give him some credit for that. That said, you're going to need more consistency from these guys. You need more consistency from Mobley. You need more consistency from Allen. You need more consistency from your bigs. And that's all that there is to it. Solid minutes tonight, I felt, from the likes of Naquan Tomlin. He's always impacting the game in short spurts. He did play 20 minutes and 44 seconds of action, but in that time, he scored 7 points, pulled down 3 rebounds, doled out an assist, and rejected a shot. And it just felt like every single time he was out there on that court, you know that he was going to provide high-level energy. He was going to be somebody that impacted the game on the defensive end due to always trying to stick and be glued to his assignment out there. And we know that he is still very, very raw offensively, but it was nice to see him knock down at least 1 triple today. That continues to be a point of growth for him, an opportunity, an area where he could improve. And hopefully he continues to take that shot, because what you don't want him to do is, just because the shot's not falling, you don't want him to fall into that territory of being unafraid, or being afraid rather, to pull. I feel like I've neglected to mention Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill was huge today. Huge. In his 31 minutes and 26 seconds of action, Sammy buckets would knock down 6 triples. He was 6 of 12 from the field overall. There were some fouls out there that I did not love, but I'll take the 19 points on 6 of 10 from 3-point distance. Cavaliers don't win this game today if Sam Merrill's not out there competing. So credit to Sam Merrill for showing out when, again, you don't have Donovan Mitchell out there. You don't have Dean Wade for the second half, and you already know who you're dealing with in regards to some of these other injuries, Max and Larry and company, right? So, big Sam Merrill game today. Let's hop into the chat, shall we? I've been yapping for long enough. Philippe Phillips II says, yet another game. Cavs have size advantage and refuse to use it. To be quite honest with you, I felt that the Cavaliers did a pretty solid job of trying to involve Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. They scored a combined 39 points. A lot of that was around the rim, with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley both taking turns trying to attack Jay Huff and company in that regard. So I don't have too many complaints in that area. I know that they are a bottom 10 defense. I know that you look at the lack of size on their end with no Obi Toppin, no Miles Turner out there, but Jay Huff, like I said, he ain't no bitch out there. He gonna contest it, and he wouldn't be leading the league in blocks if he wasn't. So it's not the easiest assignment. I legitimately did feel that they had a solid performance. Not a perfect performance, but they had a solid performance. Hailstone says, good win. Neverbloom says, dogfighting the Pacers. What the fuck, man? Listen, yeah, all you can do is play the opponent in front of you. Sometimes you play down to your competition. Do I feel like that was the case today? No. I felt that the Pacers rose to the occasion. You have to give credit where it's due. I thought that Huff, Pascal Siakam, Johnny Furphy, Andrew Nembhard and company, and fuck, I mean, I'll even give some credit to Jarrett Walker, who knocked down some timely threes today, and Micah Potter, who put the Cavaliers in compromising positions by sealing off some of the guards in the paint and generating 6 free throw attempts. So credit where it's due. They competed. They played their asses off. Chaz Erica says, you know what? Well, you know that Pacers wanted that one bad. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get it with the refs' help. Listen, again, I am going to give them all the credit that I feel like they deserve. They competed. They competed. D Jackson says we had to fight for this one. Jawan Sylvan says pathetic performance just to barely beat a 6-win team. Listen, when you look at the win-loss record, all it's going to show is a win. There's no asterisk next to it. Just win. That's Al Davis used to say, just win, baby, right? That's all it really comes down to. Neverbloom says, any of y'all's game bug out towards the end. Couldn't see the score for the last 4 minutes. Technical fucking difficulties, right? NBA.com, FanDuel, wherever you were watching it, they were having technical difficulties. And I think this was an in-house issue. I think that they were having issues with the score, with the scoring graphic, right? The scoring card. And then you just knew something was going to go wrong because the screen cut to black. I had to refresh my screen a couple of times. And eventually I was able to watch it on the Pacers side of the stream with little to no commentary, no scorecard, no graphics out there. It was hard to keep track of the score at that point, but it was definitely causing some issues. And the problem to me is it was when it occurred. It occurred with like 3-4 minutes left in the game, I think, if my memory is serving me correctly. You hate that when it's coming down the stretch. The game is very, very close, and you have technical difficulties. Just absolutely terrible. The NBA and in general, they have to do better because they've had too many issues with broadcasting not working the way it should. But I'm not gonna sit up here and be too mad because at least the Cavaliers won. Rob Gunn says, I had to watch on Pacers as well and look at ESPN to see score. And that's what I was doing, right? I was looking at the Bleacher Report app to see if I had to score accurately because there was a slight delay on the NBA side to see and to see that happen. It was like, okay, because Pacers were calling at one point, I think it was 115, 114. And I'm like, oh my God, like with 38 seconds left, I think. I'm like, am I getting ready to miss the actual end result of this game and watching on delay? Or the Pacers going to win and I'm not going to see it in real time? That's how I was feeling. So I was trying to check it on numerous outlets. Hated to see it, but at least Cavaliers pulled this one home. Freddie Black says, had to watch the arena feed with no score or shooting. Robot Face Villain says, Cavs having close games against bottom feeders and FanDuel ran out of money at the end of this game. Again, I mean, all you can do is just play the opponent in front of you. And the Cavaliers won. That's all that matters to me. I know that the score is probably going to leave a lot to be desired considering who the opponent is. But at the end of the day, those are pros on that side too. And if you need proof of that, go watch what Charlotte just did to the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, it does not matter on any given day, no matter your record, no matter how good or bad you are, you can lose. Sometimes the better team loses. Thankfully, that did not happen for Cleveland. But I say all that to say it doesn't matter. Even the best team in the NBA in the OKC Thunder can lose to bottom feeders. And Charlotte, in my opinion, certainly counts as that. Us Carcel says we couldn't watch the last 4 minutes because League Pass cut off. Other than some snippets of the game and short Chick-fil-A commercials, we had no idea of the score remaining time. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. They got to figure that shit out. They seriously have to figure it out. Provided 253 says, glad to see you back, healthy Mac. Listen, dude, you may or may not hear it. I'm still dealing with it. The problem right now is that my entire family during the holiday break has dealt with numerous issues. All 3 of my daughters all sick. Feels like various elements. I think they all have some version of the flu, which is why I started off the show talking about the super flu. It appears to be affecting the Cavaliers too and the league in general. Um, they've all been throwing up and shitting everywhere, and just dealing with different, just different symptoms. And now it's been impacting myself and my wife as well. And family too, right? I was, for those of you who don't know, I was actually in Ohio for a solid portion of time during the holiday break for me, and that's always nice to go back home and visit family. But even they were sick. Everybody was fucking sick, man. It just feels like this time of the year always gets me in some form, whether it impacts my kids first and then it trickles down to me, or I get sick and then everybody else in the fucking house gets sick. I hate to see it. I hate to go through it. I hate to, experience it, but I'm still on these streams with you guys because I love this team. And, you guys, this gives me an outlet. Good win. Not the best one, right? But a win is a win. There were some very, very phenomenal performances. And yes, I'll use that word. I was very, very impressed with Darius Garland tonight. I was highly impressed with Craig Porter Jr. I thought Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley had solid games. I thought DeAndre Hunter, despite turning the ball over 5 times, he came up really impactful in the glass. Sam Merrill, I already mentioned, he was big time. 6 triples. That ain't nothing to sneeze at. Love it, man. Absolutely love it. Feels like it just feels like the Cavaliers haven't yet hit their stride, obviously, but when you can win them ugly like this, you're still moving and trending in the right direction, and that's really all that I can ask for, especially when you don't have your star playing in games, right? The Cavaliers now, I think after tonight's win, are 21-17. They are the 7th seeded team in the Eastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken. But like I've mentioned many times over, the difference between being a top 4 seed in the East and being in the play-in, it's very marginal. The 4th seeded Toronto Raptors are just 22-15. They're quite literally, if I'm not mistaken, 3.5 games maybe ahead of Cleveland. 3.5, one of the two. They're not far ahead. It doesn't take that many to get into the top 4. And the Cavaliers, if they can just hit their stride, get healthy, get Max Strus back eventually post All-Star break, and stay healthy, I see no reason why they won't be a top 4 seed come the end of the season. Has this year gone the way that we wanted it to? No. The Cavaliers were supposed to be the number 1 seeded team in the East this year, in my opinion. They were supposed to be a bona fide playoff contender, a title contender. It has not gone that way, but that does not mean that we can't get there. A lot of the time, you just need to get hot at the right time. We see it every single year. Some team makes the best of a win streak, or guys start getting into a rhythm at the right time. They stay healthy. You see it every year. I know that people hate this comparison because it's not 1-to-1, but this very fucking team we played in the Indiana Pacers did something very similar last year. Nobody had them picked to go to the NBA Finals last year, and they capitalized on a lot of different things. The very good play of Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton, the injuries of some teams in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they came one fucking game away from winning the finals. Not a 1-to-1 comparison. So people, if you're going to jump on me in the chat, shut the fuck up. I don't care. It makes sense, right? We see teams, there are countless examples. Teams, if you get hot at the right time, you can do damage in the playoffs. And that's what I'm hoping for the Cavaliers. That's literally all it boils down to. And it's not just in the NBA. It happens in sports too. How many years did we see during the Eli Manning years in New York with the Giants, where they just managed to get hot at the right time, or they caught fire, and they entered the playoffs as a wild card, and they beat Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl, right? Eli Manning did that twice. There are other teams. It happens in other sports too. You guys know what I'm talking about. And for Cleveland, that could very well be the case, but we're so far out right now that I'm just not sure what will happen. At the very least, I'm taking this one game at a time, one step at a time. Today, although it wasn't the best victory, it is another step in the right direction, and let's hopefully they can continue to put their best foot forward as they will take on the Minnesota Timberwolves on Thursday night. That should be a difficult matchup, and they actually have two back-to-back games with them. They have one in Mini and then one in Cleveland. That's going to be a tough one. Not going to lie. That is going to be a tough 2-game stretch for the Cleveland Cavaliers, as Minnesota and company. They're a tough one, right? They are the 6th seeded team in the Western Conference at 23-13. But again, 23-13, that's the 3rd seed. That's the Knicks in the East. The 6th seed in the West is, from a record standpoint, the 3rd seeded, well, the 2nd seeded team essentially in the East is Boston. Entered today at 23-12, right? Just a half game back, and New York at 23-13 as well. So, I mean, if Minnesota was in the East, they would probably be a top 3 team right now. Either way, that's going to be a tough game, tough 2-game stretch against a very good out of conference opponent. And we already know that the Cavaliers, if we're just being objective, they have struggled against teams that are over 500. It's not necessarily been pretty. I got to be 100. I got to call a spade a spade. When you're looking at their record against 500, it's not often pretty. And I'll just leave it at that. I think that if you're looking for potential positives at this point in time, you have to look at the play of Craig Porter Jr. He's been a very solid piece for this Cavaliers bench. I think that if you can get Darius Garland playing more like this, and again, they're not going to be too many games where Donovan Mitchell is out and Darius gets to close, because I mean, that role right now is essentially, it feels like Donovan's with the way that he has played this year. So you're not always going to see Darius with the ball in his hands in the final stretches of games, but we just saw him close a lot of games out last year. So that games like today, although the opponent is not like a superior team or anything like that, that it's a confidence boost. It's a confidence builder. Again, he was 7 of 7 in the 4th quarter from the field. He hit all of his shots. He did exactly what you needed him to do, and he made plays for others. And maybe the best part about today's performance for Darius Garland is he committed 0 turnovers. Let me see if I can get my hands in the frame. 0. I'm fucking up here, right? 0 turnovers for Darius Garland today. That has not always been the case for our DG, the PG, our beloved Gary, Indiana native. So if you can get him continuing to play impactful basketball, get that shot rolling, and you don't have any more 0 of 7 nights, you're going to be good, because you look at the last 5 games prior to today, he had turned the ball over at least 2 times, right? He turned the ball over 3 times against Houston, 3 times against San Antonio, 3 times against Phoenix, 6 times against Denver, and twice against Detroit. So, I mean, it's been a minute since our guy had a 0 turnover game. I'm trying to look at the game log here and see the last time that actually occurred for him. And I think you might have to go all the way back to his performance against the Portland Trailblazers on December 3rd in a loss, right? I mean, that's not really too much to point out, but the last time DG had a game where he didn't turn the ball over at all, it was in a loss against Portland. And that was over a month ago. And if I'm not mistaken, he has only had just maybe 2 other games this year where that's been the case. One against Portland, one against Miami. That was a loss in overtime. And then tonight. So hopefully this is a trend that he is starting, and we get to see him lowering those turnover numbers while upping the assists, right? That assist to turnover ratio, it can get better. It can get better. But I think that's probably a good stopping point for tonight, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. As I always say, if you like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to It's Cavalier53 at gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you're still here by now and you're watching over on X, do your boy a favor. Hit that like button over on YouTube. Subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber to the It's Cavalier podcast. And if you want to support the show in a small but helpful way, similar to how Lena did earlier on in the chat, you can become a member over on Patreon or YouTube for as little as $1 a month. But even if you don't, your boy will still be here making the content in these live streams because I love this team and I know you guys do too. Go Cavs.